No, I think history is history and you've got to accept that and not wallow in it.
Imagine being asked about one of the most inhumane acts in history and telling someone whose family members survived the very same act by hiding under a pile of bodies that they should not wallow on this chapter of history. It's the lack of acknowledgement of the severity of the act even today that is still so baffling. This is a movie I was thoroughly looking forward to, for it presented such a hard-hitting teaser and trailer that it really made me assume that the creators have dealt with this subject with tact and sensitivity. Of course, with its own commercial flair. Kesari Chapter 2 is a spiritual sequel from Dharma Productions, mainly named the same so that it can attract audiences with a callback to a franchise. It would have been ideally called Sankaran Nair vs. The Crown, but who the hell is going to remember that title, right? So here we are, focusing on the horrible and inhumane chapter of Indian history, the Jallianwala Bagh genocide. This act of violence committed against hundreds and possibly thousands of Indians was executed by Reginald Dyer under the orders of the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, Michael O'Dwyer. The events and the timeline in real life include Sankaran Nair getting extremely upset about the genocide, in retaliation him resigning from his position as the executive counsel to the Viceroy, even writing in his book Gandhi and Anarchy about the massacre and holding Dwyer responsible for the gruesome act, Dwyer suing Nair for the same, and the case was tried in London in 1924. These are all events of the real case. However, for convenience and storytelling, the film executes changes wherein it showcases Akshay Kumar playing the role of Sankaran Nair, filing a case against General Dyer, accusing him of genocide while being assisted by an advocate, Dilreet Gill, played by Ananya Panday. The case at hand, the ultimate judgment, and more importantly, the sentiment of India as a nation under British rule is the focus of Kesari Chapter 2. An Indian man so reputed, Sankaran Nair, for his great work prior to the massacre and his disgust for the crown, was even knighted by the empire, referred to as Sir Sankaran Nair. This did not deter him from fighting the case against the mighty imperialists, making Kesari Chapter 2 a fiery legal proceeding as Akshay Kumar goes toe-to-toe with R. Madhavan, playing the role of Advocate Neville McKinley, representing General Dyer and the Crown. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch Kesari 2 in theatres or not. The underwhelming aspects. Minor hiccups in screenplay. The only gripe that I have with this otherwise standout music album of the film is that they force the presence of an iconic song like Teri Mitti in this narrative. Teri Mitti is an exceptional song sung by B. Prak that fit perfectly in a tale like Kesari that released in 2019. However, because the sentiment is similar regarding the love for one's nation in both films, it's shoehorned into this narrative and is almost like a footnote in this otherwise brilliant album. A song so powerful with lyrics so beautiful should have its own individual presence in the narrative, versus something that does not even run for its entire duration. The film is extremely tight in its running time, telling this tale in 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I felt like the makers were in a rush to move on to the case, so much so that they did not let a moment like this sit with you when Teri Mitti plays in the movie. For Akshay Kumar as an actor to process it all, it would have been entirely justified if the makers let some moments just ruminate, for Sankaran Nair to truly feel the horrors and echoes of those mercilessly killed. I felt that moment was cut short on the editing table. You remember feeling a sense of exhaustion in the manner in which Shujit Sarkar captured the genocide, of just bodies falling and the merciless killings just not stopping? That's how such gruesome acts should feel, laborious and painful, versus just a mere chapter you move on from. There is a random song featuring Masaba for just vibes in the background as Madhavan is approached by the Crown for the case that looks vague if you were to ask me personally. There are 2 snippets in the court proceeding that I believe deviated the attention of the film's theme. One includes a subplot where Madhavan tries to prove the crowd that was attacked to have terrorist links. This is narrated through a personal anecdote of a British woman, and it is easily resolved and the court casually moves on. And lastly, there is a very rudimentary and honestly quite silly portrayal that aims to shed light on General Dyer's childhood and its ramifications on him as an adult. The topic itself was interesting as a debating point in the court of law, but its portrayal through these generic flashbacks really took away from the severity of the issue. The good. The music and score. There is little wiggle room in a film such as this for it to accommodate several elements of what we consider to be essential in commercial cinema. This includes a rousing and impactful background score and music, because if we were to look at movies that focus on legal proceedings, like the two movies from the Oh My God franchise, Section 375 or even Pink, the first impression of these movies when we look back at them is not the music but the compelling performances and storyline. However, in Kesari Chapter 2, composer Shashwat Sachdev just has an ability to make his unique presence felt. The court case proceeds and the score amplifies as things get heated in the arguments presented by both sides, reaching a stage where characters almost come at blows with each other, and Shashwat through the score keeps the tension alive. What's brilliant is that through the legal proceeding, the makers leave ample room for the silences, for statements to be said and for the shock to be processed by the courtroom in pin drop silence. This allows for the viewer not to be absolutely burdened by each dialogue being amplified with the score. The only song that released before the film came to theatres, O Shera, is sung beautifully by artists Manmohar Baris, Kamal Heer and Santar, as Sankaran Nair sees the absolute carnage caused by the British imperialists. This song acts as a catalyst of change in several points of the narrative. The song, however, that truly will hit you right in the gut is Kitthe Gaya Tu Saiya, sung by Shashwat Sachdev and Shania Kashyap. This song encompasses the theme and what Nair stood for holistically. The camera pans towards the families aggrieved by the savagery committed by the Britishers as Sankaran Nair closes his eyes in helpless despair. This song is also beautifully showcased as the dichotomy that exists between the opulence and wealth of the British Crown versus the brutal genocide that is carried out side by side, really setting in stone the absolute lack of empathy the British had for this country. Cinematography and production design. I absolutely fell in love with the way this film has been shot and designed. In an era where anything that transports us to a historical timeline inadvertently provides us very curated sets, this in turn leads to the ultimate impact being lackluster at best, something that we saw with Dharma's own production of Ae Watan Mere Watan. However, with Kesari Chapter 2, you are in the thick of it from the onset. The cinematography by Debojit Ray has a consistent overcast of dread and grey that lingers on. The film is desaturated in many frames, highlighting the atmospheric trauma that persists in Punjab after the genocide. This is further enhanced by the production design by Rita Ghosh of the court and many establishments in which the imperialist forces reside. You clearly can tell two worlds within this same universe, of those who serve and still suffer and those who laugh mockingly in their ivory towers. The film from a technical standpoint is exceptional, but I think why it compels me to go out of my way to recommend it to all of you is because it especially delivers from a writing and performance point of view. The supporting cast. The film presents several convincing performances, and this is after a long time that I have sat in a movie where I cannot diss any actor feeling like they were out of place. Imagine that I was just recently in a review this week talking about the uncomfortable performances of extras, especially foreigners, and how it genuinely feels like random people have been pulled off the street. I was sent multiple DMs about this same feature being a reality even today. But I must say that all the foreign actors in this movie put forth extremely convincing performances. While the likes of our rotating foreign nationals continue in the form of Alex O'Neill and Mark Bennington, the only actors who seem to have some grasp of Hindi, it is Simon Paisley Day as General Dyer, who will really get on your nerves. And if he was capable of doing that, then he's done a bloody good job. He is a loose cannon, a man respected immensely by his army men, and someone who sees every Indian with a condescending and racist lens. This is performed exceptionally well by the actor, and to see Akshay Kumar get on his nerves is an absolute treat to watch. There is this smugness and attitude and almost superiority complex that stinks up the room in every scene he features in, and that's a job well done. R. Madhavan is brilliant as the advocate Akshay Kumar goes up against, never straying away towards becoming only theatrical, having only the intention to win while of course having his sycophantic tendencies towards the crown. Ananya Panday, also in a limited role, is competent, the only hiccup probably being her attempt at Thet Punjabi, but in the court proceeding, especially when engaging in a back and forth with the witness, Ananya is brilliant. There is a small role played by a boy by the name of Krish Rao also. In a scene that he shares with Akshay Kumar, you can't help but applaud the sincerity with which he pulled off that scene. But if there is a man who made me clap for him and who made me even teary-eyed, it has to be the lead of this solid film. Character arc and a standout performance. We have countless number of times spoken on this channel about the frustration we feel when Akshay clocks in and clocks out of roles like a regular 9-to-5 job. This often has led to many people not appearing for his movies in theatres, assuming that it's going to be a regular affair and not a standout. His great roles in movies like Khel Khel Mein and Mission Raniganj have been ignored because of the same. However, if I were to really look at Akshay Kumar's career in the last few years, this is without a doubt probably his best performance since Airlift. Akshay Kumar brings such passion, vigor and honesty to this role that I couldn't help but be immediately drawn into the character arc and story of Sankaran Nair. This is a man serving the crown and someone whose conscience kicked in to fight for his own people. And all of this is encompassed in the hard-hitting dialogue delivery of the star. The dialogue writing of Akshat Ghildial and Sumit Saxena make him almost assume the role of a passionate freedom fighter in court. And I must commend the director Karan Tyagi, who could extract the same from a star like Akshay Kumar. This probably has to do with how passionate both the director and actor were about the subject of the film, something that the makers have been sensitive about even while promoting it. I was in awe of Akshay, especially in his speech that truly captured the essence of what most Indians feel about the Jallianwala Bagh genocide and the apathy showcased by the crown even today. जानवरों का झुंड देश बनने जा रहा है brought me chills, making Kesari Chapter 2 a hard-hitting and extremely solid tale that I would recommend to all of you to watch on the big screen. You are bound to clap in several instances, I can assure you of that. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Kesari Chapter 2. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle is right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.